Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today I just want to talk about mental illness and extrasensory perception, ESP. My first wife was bipolar, which is basically a combination of two mental illnesses, schizophrenia and manic depressive. Both of those individually are a nightmare. Combine them together, it was just a living hell. And I don't want to go too much in the bad aspects of that. It was a hell for her, it was a hell for me, because I was her caretaker, trying to do all my other stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about mental illness as it pertains to extrasensory perception. Now, if you've read anything about ESP, you know that it's not some fantasy. It exists, and it is person dependent. There are people who have strong abilities in certain areas and others who don't. And the mainstream, the lay person, thinks that the average is nobody has any ESP and it's all a fantasy. Well, that's not true. People do have ESP. What happens is they have learned things. It's not a genetic thing. Well, I don't think it's genetic. People say that they learned some things that was passed down from their grandparents or whatever, but I don't know anything about that. But what I do know is studies seem to imply, or strongly imply, that extrasensory perception is something that is learned, and you can improve upon it through practice. And I believe that. And, but you know, as you improve it, you're using your mind. You're using your mind to sense things that are not easily sensed by touch, taste, hearing, or smell. You're using your mind to interpret the environment in ways that are not obvious to the five senses. And that means that you have to alter the way your brain works. Now, altering the way your brain works is going to show up in an MRI scan, a scan of your brain, and it will show that your brain is not functioning normally. Okay? This should be pretty basic, right? If you're training your mind to sense things other people cannot sense, you are training your mind to behave abnormally from the mean, right? On a Bell distribution curve. So it's a good thing that you're training your mind. It will manifest, if you scan your brain, as an abnormality and a deviance from the norm. Okay, that should be pretty clear. So people who use these abilities, who embrace these abilities, will think differently. Like somebody who has traveled the world will think differently than somebody who stayed in their small town all their life. Now, my wife, she, her brain, because she was had the elements of schizophrenia and bipolar, she would go to mental hospitals and she would go to treatment centers she couldn't be cured. They couldn't cure her, but what they could do is give her medication and social skills. So she spent a lot of time in these clinics, in these hospitals, in these facilities, and taking a lot of medicine. And she had various brain scans, and her brain scans showed abnormalities in the way she thought. Now, one of the things that, I'll give you an example. One of the things that the doctors always use to determine if somebody has schizophrenia, and she hit all those things, the level voice, everything. Do you know what I mean when I say level voice? I mean like this. Instead of talking like this, you know, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. What a great day. That food was great. Her and her family would talk like this. It was a nice day. The food was okay. It was called a flat demeanor. So these things would come out in her personal appearance and her physical behaviors, but in the brain scans it would show something different. Well, I'm going to tell you a couple things with me living with her, because I was married to her over 20 years. And of course, when I married her, I didn't know that she had inherited mental illness. It didn't manifest till she started hitting her late 20s. But we had a good run up until she started getting really sick. Nevertheless, kind girl, sweet girl, but she completely started going way off in some deep end. And as she started going off the deep end, she started sensing things. And I can tell you, since we were so connected, she knew everything about me. I would be sitting at my desk in my office. Sure as shit, I'd be there for 3 hours and I'd have to go up to pee, so I'd go to the restroom. I would get up to pee. As soon as I would leave the pee, she would rush to the phone and give me a call. I can't tell you, it was like 99% accuracy. That's the only time when she called was that. Other things, she would be able to describe the people who I was with, what they looked like, what they were talking about, where we're at. She could talk all this. She was totally connected to me, and she could tell you all this stuff. She had other skills as well, aside from ESP. She had this ability with words. My God. She, spelling. I throw out a name, and she could spell it just like that. She was phenomenal. And she'd hear a sound, and she could play any instrument. She just had this musical intonation with her. So she had these other abilities, very, very strong and powerful abilities, but her madness, the mental illness, made it so that she couldn't function in society. You don't want that. You want to increase your ESP ability without damaging your ability to function in society, right? Huh? That's the way it is. Now, one of the things that the doctors use to determine the level of severity, if you have schizophrenia, if you ask a person who has this mental illness, what does the meaning, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks, what does that mean? A normal person who is the bell-shaped curve will explain that it's idiomatic. It's not a literal statement. Idiomatic means that if you talk bad about somebody, you should expect other people to talk bad about you. If you are concerned about that person's car, maybe you should really be concerned about your car. It's idiomatic. But if you ask somebody with a mental illness, what does a glass house and throwing rocks, what does it mean? They'll say, well, rocks break glass. And that's exactly what my wife said. She says, well, rocks break glass. I don't want to divulge and say anything bad about her. She's still a wonderful, sweet woman. Kind, I've never seen anybody kinder. Smart, just a genius, but she just can't put things together. She can't function in society because her raging illness has just taken over her life. But one of the things she could do is she had these abilities, these abilities, not just on me, knowing what I'm doing, but, she predicted there was a major earthquake in California. She predicted it the day before it happened. She says, we got to call Ellen. We got to call her and warn her. I was like, come on, don't be silly. She predicted all kinds of other things too. And she could see these entities, not physically see them, sense them, but she could sense them in such a way that she could see them. Does that make any sense? She could sense them, she would say, well, there's an entity over there standing by that tree. She could sense that they're there. She says, what are they like? Well, it's a woman and, wearing an old-fashioned dress. I says, do you see the dress? She says, no, I don't see it. She could sense these things. And So why am I getting off on this tangent here? Well, the basic thing here is I think everybody has these abilities to train yourself to be able to sense things we normally can't see. I believe that managers or business people have developed these various unseen skills to help them in business, help them in careers. In the book Think and Grow Rich, I think it was Think and Grow Rich, I forget, Napoleon Hill, he wrote about one time when he was a young salesman, and he got a great contract with this customer, and they were so happy about it, they all got drunk that night and just bad-mouthed and said bad things about the customer. And when he woke up, he was really hungover, and then he got a phone call from the customer, said, "I changed my mind, I have a bad feeling about dealing with you." I believe that in day-to-day life that we pick up these other skills. We may not be aware of it. These people who are billionaire oligarchs, these people who are running the United States government and Congress and everything, they've picked up other skills. And it has changed the way their brain works. And changing how your brain works is neutral. It's not good or bad. I'm not saying that we should be like everybody should be the same. I believe in differences. But as you change your brain and experiences come, you might become good or evil or neutral, maintain neutrality. So you have to be careful on that. And I'm seeing a lot of strange things going on in the United States that are suggestive of altering the brain intentionally by other forces who are desiring of that kind of change of thought process. And that is disturbing to me. So, what can you do? Well, there's a lot of things you can do, a lot of things that I would suggest. But I strongly suggest that we try every day to be the best that we can be. And if you have an interest in learning ESP abilities or PSI abilities, then go try to embrace it. Start simple. Get a dowsing rod and practice. Bury some cans or jars of water in a yard and then go find them with a forked stick or dowsing rods. It's two L-shaped rods, and just try doing that. See how good you are. Over time, you'll see, as you do it, you'll get better and better and better. And that will change the way how you think and view things a little bit. And as you improve, there's all kinds of other things you can do. And don't be under the impression that the mean, the norm, is your ideal. It's not. It's not your ideal. Your ideal is exactly what you want it to be. And the rest of the world can sit back and howl. You just be the best you can possibly be. And I know you're going to do that. And I'm here to tell you, don't be so judgmental of people, of their backgrounds, or of whether they have mental illness, or trivial things like hair or skin color or fashion or cars they drive. Don't be so caught up on the surface trivial. Be kind, be helpful, be the best you can be. And remember, it's going to go up and down depending upon your daily circumstances, but just be the best you can be. And you'll be fine, because you know why? I believe in you.